There we go.
Hey, this is Jason Pike, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
Love it. I love it. I love getting warriors on the show, dudes that have. Look, a lot of times when you join the military, you think, I just do me, 3, 4, 5 year hitch. I get out and get me some education money and move on. And then you talk to someone and you're like, how long were you in? And then they're like, oh, that was 30 years. I never thought I'd stand. Look, I wasn't ever going to stand. I'm like, you know what else am I going to do this next couple of years while I'm 27? I got myself a degree. It's hard to get a job. I don't have any experience, so I can't get it. Let me go get some experience. I'll get in the army, get myself a top secret clearance, go become a spy for a while, and I'll get out. And I ended up being in the army 3 different ways. Deployed. I was a contractor as well. And see, all of a sudden you have this full career, man, right? And I never even intended on staying in, and now it defines me professionally. Sure, I've done this for about 10 years now, but what do? I do the exact same thing as it is a spy. I talk to people, I build a network, I ask questions. These shows are a report, and I communicate with the commander, who's everybody out here on the other side of this camera. I'm still in the damn army.
That's amazing. I tell you how it works. That's how it works.
It's funny, right? And so you must have had a similar thing where you thought, I'm going to do this because you started enlisted, right? And so you don't ever think, I know, like you're supposed to say, I was going to get in and become a sergeant major of the Army. That was never my intention, ever.
No. I joined when I was 17. I didn't even have a high school diploma at the time. It was in the National Guard. And I just thought, well, I'll just be all I can be as much as I can, and get some of that easy paycheck money, drink beer on the weekends, and maybe shoot some rifles, maybe shoot some artillery, maybe go do something. And
right.
I wasn't looking at 30 years lieutenant colonel at all.
Yeah. So, but when you do go, there's something that happens that sends folks like us there. Like I never knew what I wanted to be. And then when I finally did, like, oh, you know what, I'm going to do TV sports, the economy, social change. Like, hey, let's have less white dudes doing the TV news. Let's spread it around a little bit, right? Like this early 90s. Like we can have women, we can have other people. And so just the job pool shrank, right? Legitimately, like no complaints. And so as I was getting there, it was really the market had changed around me. And so it was like, well, now what am I going to do? And so what are you going to do when you don't know what you're going to do? You look at the military and there they were ready for me, right? So what about you? Like, why do you end up taking this less traditional path? Nothing wrong with it, but you end up there through as like a hedge or as a, what else am I going to do kind of thing.
Well, at the age of 17, you could get your mother's signature and you could sign up. A part-time soldier, weekend warriors, what they call it. And I thought, well, the college was basically out of the question for me, not only from anecdotal reports from school and counselors, but also on the scores, the GREs, the SAT scores. I can guarantee you that I probably made lower than most of your viewers out there on the entrance test to the college, the SAT. So I thought, well, I guess I got to join the military, and then that'll be a part-time job, and then maybe from there I was thinking of doing something in agriculture, but I didn't know what. That's kind of how it started. But once I got into the basic training in 1983 at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, to me, that was hell. I mean, I know it's just basic training, but for me, being someone that has trouble drinking water out of the damn fire hose, I'm a slower type of a person, I thought that was really difficult. And I decided, well, I think I'm going to try college because I've been through all this shit. And so that's kind of my mindset when I was coming out of basic training at the age of 18.
Yeah. But you do go to college. You get a master's degree. And if I'm not mistaken, by your bio, everybody should go watch your episode with Mark Zeno, Battleground. They cover all the background and like your whole career. But you get a second master's degree too. So you end up get quite a bit of schooling and you move around quite a bit. So you're no dummy, but until you believe you can accomplish something and that you can work within that system, you are a dummy until you unlock it. So how did it unlock for you? Like, when did you realize whatever you set your mind to, whatever speed you go, who cares? You can do it.
Yeah, that's when I went to my junior college. I went to a smaller college in South Carolina before I went into Clemson University, and they would take anybody who was lame, lazy, or crazy. And so what I did was I built up my confidence academically while still serving in the National Guard. And at that same time, I'm thinking, I think I can do the ROTC. I think I can go to ROTC. And so it was basically a building up of confidence. There was an old show on the television called Where There's a Will, There's an A. And it's just how to study. It's really how to study strategically. I watched it. I picked up some tips on that. And I've got it. And I actually borrowed that title as one of my chapters in the book. Where there's a will, there's an A. And it's just the techniques. Sitting at the front of the class, using a tape recorder, studying your notes. Just a lot of little techniques I used. And I said, well, I think I can get a, college degree. I mean, it's not going to be engineering. It'll be education, something easy. But that's kind of how my thoughts were as a young man then. Yeah.
Yeah. And in Mark's show, you kind of downplay the whole junior college or community college thing, but let's be honest, it's a golden path. It's probably the best path for most kids because you don't really know what you want to do. You have a dream on what you might want to do, and anymore, like any school you want to go, like especially here in California, kids are going off to other states. Other states are like, hey, we'll waive out-of-state tuition, and so kids are like, I'm going to go to New York City and become a whatever. Like you're 18, you don't have any idea what you're going to do, and so you should spend time. My advice, and I go back every year, and I think you'll appreciate this, Jason. I go back every year to my high school, and I talk, fall and spring semesters to the seniors. And I'm like, hey, I'm you from the future. What do you want to know about life? And I talk to them. Okay, you're going to go to community college. You're going to go to the military. You're going to go to college. I've done all of it. So what do you want to know? And I always tell them, like, if you're not sure, don't forget what your parents want. I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to you as a parent. I'm talking to you as you. And slow down. Don't be in a rush. And if you go to community college, it is fantastic. I've talked to so many people, and I know you're going to echo this. And they say, and you just did say this, when I went to community college, I met the best teacher. I had the best experience. I figured something out. So I always tell them, go where the A's are and continue to follow those A's. Because if you happen to get a degree in something you love, at worst, you've got a degree. Maybe you find a career in that thing. You absolutely can make a living in music. You can make a living in choir. You may not get to, but you will have gotten a degree in arts. And now you have a degree. And at worst, you can say, I have a BA.
Yeah, the community college, as I look back on it, was a great place to build up my confidence. And I went in there just for 2 years, and this was a transfer program. You could transfer into these other universities that maybe you couldn't get into. I mean, and then you still got that whatever hotshot degree, even though you had 2 years or maybe 3 at that community college. So no, it was a good place to start, and they forgive your grades, or they forgive your past high school. But you got to prove them. You got to work a little bit there. And they have a tutoring lab, which I was at, and I just worked. I did ROTC. I did National Guard, and I was a student. I was working too. I was making some money, and so I was real busy. I was on the ball after I was on the ball on that one. Yeah.
You're describing someone, though, who is motivated. Did you know at the time that you were motivated? That is not the average high school to college kid experience. This is someone who's seasoned and says, there's a path, I am on it. Because ROTC is another job. That's another duty that you have to do. And you're in the Army, and you're studying like a professional. So how did you know that you had all this? Like, did you realize you were doing all of this at the advanced level?
Well, at the time, I was just saying, I've got to get my degree somewhere. I don't want to be enlisted the entire time. I want to become an officer. I had been through basic training, and that was hell on wheels to me. That was a change. That was a come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
And everyone told me I totally changed. I went into a criminal correctional facility, not because I did anything criminal, but because it was sort of a drug deal with the drill sergeants to try to break these privates, from the Army, make or break you. It was a different level of hell, and I was only there for about a day, really.
Yeah.
And I thought I was getting kicked out. But then after that facility, after all the crazy things we did in that facility, I came back to my platoon and finished out basic training, but I was a little bit more wired tight, I guess. Yeah. Maybe too tight.
Yeah. Maybe too tight. Back to this community college thing, because you're right. You go to Clemson for your undergrad.
Went to
And
Clemson University.
the people that counsel the community college kid and get them to go to Clemson, they're like, hey, there's a path. You take these 15 courses plus these other courses, and you walk right to Clemson. Here's what Clemson is thinking. You're going to give us someone who's more than halfway through a degree. They already, all of the hard stuff is figured out. They know how to go to school. They are almost basically done with the degree. They just got to sit around for 2 years doing what they've already done for 2 years. Hell yeah, we'll take those guys because they want the numbers of we graduate people, and you were going to graduate. Like it's like 85% of people, if not 90 something percent, who've gotten that AA, who've gotten that lower division stuff done. They're not going to stop unless something cataclysmic happens. And you don't bet on cataclysm, you bet on the norm, right? And so it is true. Like you can go to here in California, wherever you live, you want to go to Cal, you want to go to Stanford, any of these places, they're like, here's the highway. Just take these courses. You'll go. And bam. But people don't realize that. Like, oh, here's my dream school. I want to get to these schools. Well, just go to community college, save some money, learn how to go to school, have a good time, and then end up at whatever it is, UC Irvine or wherever you want to go.
Yeah, it was a good path to go on, and at the time I was feeling I was defying the odds. I'm doing something which they told me I couldn't do, which would be to go to college, and I'm doing it. So at the time, while I was making these grades and getting through this process, I felt that I was blessed or very, very lucky, and I wanted to keep on to my luck. And I said, I just got to keep on going with this stuff. And I'm going to become an officer. I'm going to become a lieutenant. ROTC was very, very easy for me. And because I had been through basic, I thought it was a joke. I think I graduated last in I graduated second to the last in my ROTC class because I thought it was a joke. I was never around. But I was always around to pick up that paycheck when they gave it to me because I did have a scholarship. But that's kind of how that worked. I placed my priority on the academics. That's kind of what I would do.
Okay, so I wanted to cover the community college part because I just want to put that on the record, like what a fantastic path that is, that anybody can go do that. And look, even if you don't stay with it, you get an AA degree, you've got a degree, and then you're really a matter of months away from something bigger. But let's move on. At some point, you get into the officer world, and lieutenant to captain. That's a pretty straightforward path. But then you start to branch transfer. You get into the staff positions, senior captain, major, that kind of thing, and that's a slog. And you and I know that. Look, you can make it to lieutenant colonel if you can just survive. If you can just swim with your peers. 05. I don't want to say it's guaranteed, but you just have to survive. But that survival means you have to be worked to a nub. You have to be numb to all of the machine, and you just have to sit there and just do it. Did you have that skill? Did you have to develop it? How was that sitting there on staff, just doing it? How did you get to that point?
Well, the staff part was really difficult for me because that requires reading and writing and charts and PowerPoints. And so the command parts were really good. That was easy for me. But with the staff part, I had to develop friendships and people to help me out. I even had my wife help me out as far as doing some charts and things, and whatever it took to get around that, to get around those little obstacles of doing nutty, they call it staff and trash, doing the staff work, the trash work, whatever. It was brutal to me, doing reports and things. I had to get examples of them. I used to have a file of examples of various reports and things, and so I didn't have to regurgitate or just reinvent the wheel. So I just started becoming creative of how I approached these various assignments.
When you are doing this, you're in the Guard, and we were talking off mic. The Guard is a family, and you have to look out for yourself. You have to find someone who will look out after you, and you have to have people that you're going to look out after. Like you really have to blend into this. I'll call it a fraternity. There are ladies in it, but this is it's a good old boy network for the good and for the bad. Are you good at that part of the game?
No, I'm not. I've just never been that much of a. Now with my friend, I got my immediate friends and the people I graduated basic training, but I was not formed into the good old boy system. I was sort of an outsider, even though I was from South Carolina and I speak that accent and things of that nature. It's just that I just didn't, I didn't adapt that well to it. My section leader was always screaming in my face about everything, even in the guard, like, after you graduate, he was always in my face about something because I don't know. I knew I didn't belong there and I didn't feel comfortable there. And I eventually just did my 4 years and went on to Clemson University. My section leader said, when I told him I was going to go to Clemson, he almost fell down laughing with a beer in his hand, like he couldn't believe it. But we're friends. We're cool now. We're cool.
Yeah. When did you find your spot? Like, when did you, because look, in a career like you've had, like any kind of military career, you're just going to move around a lot. You're going to have a lot of bosses. You're going to keep some mentors. The people who don't like you, you're not going to keep them because they're going to move away from you. But when did you finally find your spot where you were balanced above and below, where you were able to lead, but you were also able to be led?
Probably once I got on to active duty,
Okay.
and I did the branch transfer into the medical service corps,
Right.
and I got into a medical specialty, which was public health, prevention of diseases, and I was pretty good in sciences, and so I thought that would be, that's where when I picked up on that branch transfer in the Army Medical Department, I started going pretty well, did well.
Mm. Why?
I was interested in sciences. I've always been interested in the medical service corps, the public health, the diseases, the water, the food, the sanitation, the entomology part of it. That was something I knew that, I could stick with. It interested me. And food, water, survival, plants, animals, things, how to work. It was something I picked up pretty well even in college. And I thought this might be a good career path. I mean, there's not a lot of, there's a very unique specialty. There's a whole lot of unique specialties in the Army Medical Department. Nutritionists, behavioral health, it just nuclear medical, audiology, and I was in entomology, but we were a sister to environmental science officers. So we did a little bit of environmental and we did a lot of entomology, right?
When you are doing your job then, are you guys deployed as a team? I mean, how do you guys nest within an organization when you deploy?
So deployments are nested into like a 12-man team. So I would be a leader. Since I'm an officer, I would be either an executive officer or the commander. And we're going to have our preventive medicine technicians, the enlisted people that actually go there and do the reports, kind of like your health and welfare type of inspection things of food, water, dining facilities, whatever, trash. And so we were like a public health department in the Army, and we would deploy. I did 2 deployments to El Salvador. I did, Korea, Afghanistan, and we would go as teams. Mostly they were 12, 13-man teams. That's kind of how that worked.
And then are you working under like a mayor cell and doing vector control and inspecting chow halls, that kind of thing?
Sure. We would work in line with the hospital. Many times we'd be co-located with a hospital, a medical, like an Army hospital, whatever. So we'll understand what types of issues the soldiers are having as far as communicable diseases and things of that nature.
And when you guys are going off post, are you doing things like any kind of like food examination, or is there any, there must be off post work of some kind because there's so many pathogens that can come on post.
Well, so off post, we're sort of barred from, meaning we can go there just to travel, but we're only concerned with things that are on the post. All right. So you've got Burger Kings on post, you've got other things out there they can eat, but if it's off the post, that's out of our area. And we can if we see a lot of problems coming from a certain area off post, we can put a sign up saying recommended not to dine here, but mostly we stay away from that.
When we were in Bosnia, we did a little operation that involved going to a pig farm. It's funny because we were in the Muslim part of the country, but Bosnia is full of Jack Muslims. And so we bought a bunch of pigs as a unit, and we were going to have a pig roast. And so the veterinarians went to the slaughter, and so they were there to participate and watch and observe the slaughter because that was their job. And so it was great. So they got to do their job off the post, which of course they loved. They're like, we get to go off the post. And you have all these majors who are veterinarians, and they're like, this is the best thing ever. So all these people got to do this thing. And the whole time we got to do our little, counterintelligence job, which involved drinking beer and eating fresh food. And it was the best. And then we all got to have a pig roast, and everybody in the camp got to have this great time. So it is interesting when you get to, in my world, if I can layer in getting Jason and his crew off post for some reason, man, I'm the king of the world, and you guys will give me anything. Like you like, oh man, there's Pete, he's the best. He got us off post, and that so that's it's funny how these transactions turn into a lot of favor amongst each other, and a little team and another little team can really they can matter to each other a lot, and it improves your entire deployment because I don't know, you're not just on post doing the same thing every day.
Yeah, that would be nice. I was in El Salvador. I did twice in El Salvador, and I definitely wanted to get off post and eat other foods and things of that nature. But it was the command at the time was like, nobody off post. We don't want to have another Black Hawk down. We're not going to have that. And so there was just that type of thing. Now in Korea, everyone went off post for all kinds of things. We were off post. Living with the natives and doing various community relation things over there, which was really, really fun. So I did make some good friendships and contacts in the Republic of Korea Army. So, that was a different story. Afghanistan, for the most part, I was in charge of 18 base camps, and we would go by helicopter to go do the inspection. So it was in Region Command West, and we would just hop with our helicopters. So we didn't have to really. We're staying on post, but we're not going off post. So that's kind of
And which deployment did you like the best?
Probably South Korea, just because of the food. Kimchi is my favorite food. I eat it every day. Yeah, that's. I know it doesn't. A lot of people don't like South Korea. Very, very different. I understand that, but I think I just got a liking to the food and some of the things, the culture things, and so forth. Yeah.
When you start to take pen to paper, that's a big step. And, we all should write a book. You have a career for 30 years. So everybody's got a book, right? Everybody does. Everybody's been to enough countries, seen enough things. But what made you think, I really have a book here? And then again, for a guy who's like, hey, I struggle with written word, what made you think that you could do this and should do it?
When my father passed away, I was going to Afghanistan. I just thought, I had a lot of things I was thinking about trying to get over his death, and I thought that I can knock out a few birds with one stone. In other words, I can talk about my dad, give a legacy to him, talk about my crazy stories, all the bizarre things, the crazy stuff that happened, but I didn't know how to do it. I was like, how do I do this? I don't know anybody. And I eventually just stammered around for years. I just said, I'm not a writer. I can't be but I'm a writer, bestseller, according to a few months ago. But I went to a website and where I would bid out people that wanted to do my project. And so I got a ghostwriter. I had a lot of help. Put it this way, I had a lot of help on this. And, that was
nothing wrong with a ghostwriter.
A ghostwriter is somebody who just helps you out on the back scenes. And I don't think anybody really truly writes their book. I think that most of them are sort of you have people behind the scenes helping you out.
And even if you write it all yourself, you're going to give it to a professional editor at some point, and they're going to completely change what you do. And there's always going to be professional help there, right? Yeah. So I get that. And I know a lot of ghostwriters, and they're ghostwriters for a reason. They're very, very good at writing the books, and they take your incredible story and they turn it into something. There's an absolute skill there. So don't feel bad about that at all. Feel great about it. You've written an incredible story and bestseller, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. Is there another book in your future? I think you've done one.
Yeah, we're looking at the Veterans Administration. We're looking at a self-help guide for folks who coming out of the military to get their veteran benefits. Now, it's very, very dry. If you look at the Veterans Guide or anything written up by the Veterans Administration, it's like, oh God, what? I got to read this junk. It's boring. So we're going to put a different flavor to it. The same ghostwriter is putting this together, and then it'll be more of a reference to self-help guide with my vernacular, with my, down home type of Southern language I put to it that maybe someone could understand it a little bit more. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man, I was just today had my lance out, and I was poking the VA because I've got this bad back that I'm rated for, that I'm asking for a higher rating, that they're going, hey, you need to ask us for a higher rating. We want to do more treatment. We want to be more invasive, all of these things. And I'm like, massage is the thing that helps me out the most. They're like, well, let's slow down there, partner. Massage. Well, that's expensive. And I'm like, it's the thing that helps me the most. So like, have you thought about taking more drugs? And I'm like, you don't understand what I'm saying. Massage helps me the most. Like, how about once a month? like, yeah. No, and so then you, and I'm doing this because you and I get this, but I want people to hear it. Like when you call in and I'm like, the system is failing me, and I'm not mad at you, VA person. They're like, no, I get it. And I want you to call and I want you to pull all the levers and I want you to push all the buttons because the system is failing you and it drives me crazy too. So even within the system, they're saying this is not working. So what I'm saying out loud to everybody is if you are in the VA system, continue to push hard, force the system to adapt. And that means talking to your Congress people. When they are like, hey, right now, I'm so fortunate. There was a guy who comes to my house and gives me a massage. What the VA is now proposing is, hey, we hired a guy who you can go to half an hour each way, and he will massage you once a month. Like, okay, that is a downgrade in what I have right now. It's like, yes, it's very nice to have him come to my house, but I shouldn't have to drive half an hour to get a massage once a month. Like, and so, yeah, thanks for writing this book. We need it. We all need to understand, like, this is not easy. We have to all keep pushing. So I'll be calling the patient advocate. They're going to go, okay, what am I supposed to fix? Like, this is all working properly. I'm like, that's fine. I've done my part. Now I'm going to file for a congressional, and we're going to do this because everybody's telling me, everybody's pointing to everybody else. And I'm like, no, I got it. So anyhow, that's just my rant, but you get what I'm saying. We have to do these things. We have to write these books. We have to poke this thing so that someone in Congress can say, yep, we will spend more money than if they just gave me the fucking massages, Absolutely. It costs more money to have this whole investigation, I'm sorry. Do you want to say something on your episode?
As far as the Veterans Administration is concerned, I recommend emailing them because when you email them instead of call them, well, one, it's quicker. Number two, it is a written document that goes into your record you could call them and that's not going to be a record. So if you email them, and if they don't answer, email other people. There's a whole drop down. I'll ask them all the same things, like machine gun them with the emails, and they'll come and say, okay. That's one thing. A lot of people don't. There's just so many things I learned in the VA. You can get paid to travel, so that half hour you get your round trip, and so you can get paid to go to your appointments as far as travel is concerned. And then you can get and I don't have this, but you can get clothing allowance if you've got anything that interferes with your clothing. It could be creams or braces or anything. There's a clothing allowance. So there's just a lot of little nuggets in there that might help other people out that I'm going to try to throw out there.
Yeah. Good. When you were talking about this book and you're looking at what you owe to the community, you've got this memoir, but like, is there a service that you wanted to provide in general?
Yeah, I was wanting to get the word out through speaking, and all the speaking I've been doing basically has been on podcasts. I have not been able to get my foot in the door on like the old fashioned come in here and speaking events. You gave me an idea, which I thought I could do. Go to the high school, go back to my high school in South Carolina, and maybe put my foot in the door that way. I heard what you said about I'm the future, and what do you want to know? And so I was thinking about maybe that would be a good way to go, and just to get the ball rolling on that one.
Yeah. There's a lot of places where you can do that, right? It's just really up to you and how you approach where that message goes out at, But the next generation is trying to figure out what they're going to do and how they can be of service in some way, and whether it's in the military or not. Like, you are a great example. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't think you can do anything, and the next thing you know, 20 years later, you've got all this stuff that you've done by just applying yourself, right? Like, you really can. If you got your face out of your TV and out of your phone and you just did something every day, like, look what you can do over time. It's amazing.
Yeah. Just get off your butt and do something and start making it happen, whatever that might be, whatever your career interest is. And so it doesn't have to be a big shot degree like me. You can go to these trade schools and electricians, plumbing, and they're going to need those, whatever. So I'm big on the trade schools. And so, yeah.
For sure. At least out here in California, you become a pipe fitter, about 4 years, but you're making money the entire time. And when you're done, there's always overtime, and you're making no less than $60+ an hour,
That's pretty
and
good.
constantly saving for retirement while you're also saving for retirement. Like it's an incredible thing. And there's always work. There's never enough pipe fitters. Never enough. And so depending on where you live, you get paid different amounts of money, but there's always a shortage of those guys. And when you don't want to work, you take vacation. It's pretty crazy. The the thing I wanted to ask you about, let's say I have you come out here to California. You don't know a soul, and I'm like, hey, let's go hang out. I know a bunch of guys that are getting together, and they're like, so Jason, what do you do? What's your answer? Are you going to say, oh, I'm an author? Are you going to say, oh, I'm a retired colonel? What do you say? What are
I
you?
say I'm a retired colonel, but I'm also an author. So I write books, I tell stories, I'm a storyteller. That's kind of how I kind of define myself. I'm a father and so I'm a husband, and so those are the things I would probably tell them. Yeah.
Yeah. And when they say, how do you make your money? Like, do you say, is it because I write books, or do you say I'm just retired, or what? Are you?
Retired, yeah. I make money from my retirement, my military pension, and then also the VA. VA gives me money for my disability. So
Yeah.
those are two paychecks I've got. And then I
Yeah.
understand when I turn 62, I'll get a third paycheck if I want, which would be Social Security. So yeah, so that's kind of how
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, the military's got their, they've got ways to make money as far as just staying in your time. And I think now, if you join the military, they make you, which I think is a good thing. They enforce you to participate in something called the thrift savings plan.
Right.
So when you get out, you won't just have nothing; you'll have something. So
Yeah. If someone is enlisted and they stay in 20 years, man, you got to transition over at least to warrant, right? Like you at least got to do that, because you look at that retirement scale and it's only gotten separated even more, like the officers. An O3 retires with more money. Not that he retires an O3, but with more money than an E9. Like, it's crazy.
that's when I was a young man. When I was enlisted, I looked at that pay chart and I was thinking, oh my God. I was thinking, you know what? I can come out as a second Louis and make as much as an E6 or an E7. I think didn't take me long to figure. I just got to get it. I just got to get a college education. But yeah, chief warrant officer, being a CW, that's a sweet way to go. Just transfer out enlisted and get into the chief warrant officer route. I think you'll be doing good there too.
Yeah. When you did get out, how close were you to just going for 06? And did you think, because in the medical corps, if you're not on the doctor side, you do kind of get pyramided out, right? Like there's only so many general slots. So how did your career, as you arc out, like, we all know how this works. Like, you have energy in your career until you start to bang up against the top of your profession, whether you're slotted out because there's not very many slots, or, your career starts to lose energy. You look around, you're like, this is about the top for me. So how did that go for you?
Well, at the time, it was 2012. I had come back from Afghanistan. And yeah, I was looking at becoming a full colonel. I got passed over, which passed over means I didn't make it. And you can still apply again. So 05 is, like you say, keep your mouth, breathe air and do good, to 05.
Right.
06, that's that heavy lift.
It's really competitive. Yeah.
I mean, there's many people, at least in our specialty, that nobody gets picked up for 06 for years. It's just the way it goes. It's a numbers game. And so, but at that time, I was burned out. I had a whole series of things that happened in the military. It's not just Afghanistan. It was my father. I had some trouble in a federal investigation in South Korea. So a lot of things were building up in me, and I was pretty much burned. And a lot of people thinking, are you sad about getting? No, I'm not. I was kind of happy to get. Yeah. I didn't really want any more in the Army at the time anyway.
Yeah. My default advice to any of my friends or people who are now younger than me now, because I'm 53 now, but when they're like, 05, 06, they're like, yeah, I'm thinking about staying. I'm like, what sweet thing are they going to throw at you for you to stay in? They're like, I don't know. They'll come up with something. And I'm like, I just want you to get out. You've done enough. Just stop. I really think 05 is good enough. Like, you're never going to be hungry, right? You're always going to be taken care of. You can always get a job. I mean, lieutenant colonel, oh, wow. Yeah, that's great. You'll always can get something. I always encourage them to get out, because there's nothing else you need to do. Will they make you G3 of course? Okay, great. That's a great job. And maybe you'll go pin 06. That's great. And then what's next? More of that? Fuck that.
Go do something completely different now. You're still young enough. Go. Do you think that's good advice or bad advice? What do you think?
I think if you go ahead and get out if you're not enjoying it, and you'll know that because you'll be complaining like I was doing, all the bullshit that I had to do. I was complaining out loud about
Yeah.
it. That's kind of a sign where I need to leave. And
Yeah.
they gave me that little like sweet thing. When I come back from Afghanistan, I wanted to get out, but they said, you know what? I'll go to Germany. And it's an easy job, and everybody likes Germany. And you just drink beer and hang out, and then maybe you can retire there. And that's what I did. I visited countries out in Europe and drank some beer, and just basically just saw the area. It was a good transitional job. And that's basically what I did. I just took that one nugget, and then I didn't do my 3 years in Germany. I just did 2, and I got out.
Let me ask you this, man, because I've met a lot of people on the way. I don't remember all their names, but because I wandered around and I didn't belong to anybody, I could really talk to anybody. But I would meet like these majors or whatever, and they would have a job like, because there's a lot of weird jobs in the military that are singular, they're one-off, they're not going to exist again. You don't have to be qualified. You just have to sit there and do your job. And one of these jobs was be the major or above who sat there and was ready to indoctrinate the Taliban guy who came in from the cold. And you're like, here's your package to make you return back into Afghanistan. By the way, nobody ever took them up on the deal, right? But that was their job. They sat there and they got to put a 0 on the board every day. No one walked in the door and took us up on our deal. And that would be their, right? You get where I'm going with this. And then we get, you know what? Great OER. Like, I couldn't do that. That would drive me fucking nuts to do that. But
yeah, they'll put officers, like what they'll do if they want to get rid of you. They'll give you some shammy, crazy job to try to see if they can get you to voluntarily get out. They'll say, okay, we're going to assign you to a desk somewhere in like a cubicle, and you're not going to have any responsibility. And usually, a lot of people will just say, "Oh, frick it, I'm getting out of here. I'm gone." I knew that for me, Afghanistan, being a commander of one of those public health units, that was my pinnacle. And I said, this is where I'm going to shine at, which I did. And then after that, there's really, even if I stayed on as a lieutenant colonel, there's really not a whole lot of good places that I cared to be. I was burned out too.
Yeah. You do reach a point where like you've deployed enough and you really like, what else can I do? Right. Like you do know, like, this is my last command. I'm not going to deploy and command again. I'm going to be on someone's staff. And it really, like, there is nothing after that, right? Like if you're not going to deploy as an 06 as a commander, it really is just staff time.
A lot of staff time. A lot of staff time. A lot of people don't understand you're on the staff a lot. Could be battalion staff, brigade staff, whatever staff, or just or some sort of a garrison support type of deal. So, but no, that comes with the territory. That's the way it goes.
If you deploy as a brigade DCO, just look at that person. You're like, this guy. This is the highest this guy's going to get, right? Probably not going to be a commander of a brigade because they weren't a commander already. You're not going as a DC, and so you're thinking, this is this guy's last ride, And so I would talk to these guys, and you can hear there's a little bit of melancholy there, like this is it. And it was interesting to have a conversation with those guys, and you're like, I just want to make this last bit of a difference. But even then, it was just a little bit off of wonderful for them.
Yeah, it's kind of like their polish. It's like the icing on the cake of their career. I get to go over here and get to become the DCO or the what have you, and it sort of puts a good polish on their entire career, sets them up really well. And a lot of people want to go out that way.
Yeah. So what's next for you? I know you got this other book that you're thinking about, but that's not enough for you. I know you got other things going on.
I'm doing my book here, and that's the second. Other than that, I've got podcasts going on. A lot of other podcasts that are out there. I have plans to do some more speaking engagements, but that's something I have not got off my butt to get into. I need to go there, like you suggested, in that high school or somewhere, and maybe just do it for free, and then go on from there. So those are some of the things that are in my pipeline now. I did work for a little while for the Centers for Disease Control, just 2.5 years before my book was published, and then I quit that because I just wanted to do my book, my passion, and so
What's a day like for you though? I mean, are you day to day? I mean, are you working on some of the writing, or what fills your day up?
I review my ghostwriter's notes, look up and he'll have some, a chapter or two, review it, send it back to him. I'll go to the gym, work out, walk my dogs, that sort of thing. I'll come in and have a podcast, or I will also do scheduling for future podcasts. That's kind of how my day looks like day to day. And so, that's how it works. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How's your body holding up post combat and all these deployments?
No, yeah, it's doing pretty good. It's the post-traumatic and I had a mild TBI, traumatic brain injury, just a mild one. And then the PTSD, and that's the gym and the dogs and things that helps me out on that. I definitely like to stay busy. I don't like to sit around much. I'm not sitting around much at all. I'm always wanting to do something, whether it be yard work or this work or going or traveling somewhere, seeing something new, things of that nature.
What's your go-to therapy? Like if you're going to do something to get your head right, what do you do?
It's called the cold hot. It's cold bath. It's cold baths and sauna. So it's a contrast. So what I'll do is just today I went into a sauna, and then I jump out into like an ice cold bath, and then I get that therapy. For me, it works. And then of course just walking and jogging or biking, those things. But I think that hot cold therapy really does a lot for me. Yeah.
I'm going to put your link in here, so everybody should go check out Jason's website. I'm just going to put that here in the comments, and then after that, I'm going to put the link up for the book. But that's where you can get all of Jason's story. We're just kind of covering the basics. Go watch Mark Zeno's show, and they covered like the whole span of Jason's career, and he and Mark do a great job with that. Just a lot in there. Who inspires you day to day? Is there anybody you reading like just that? Because like we need our touchstones, right, to remind us like that's right. This is where I'm going. This is where I'm headed. Who's that for you?
I guess it would be my father. Even though he's passed away, I still think about him a lot, and all the stories that he handed down to me, which I passed on a little bit with the book. And I look back at him and his life, and he's always inspired me. He came from the very, very bottom, white trash poor, stealing food poor. Matter of fact, he even taught me how to steal watermelons when I was a kid. And so I grew up with him and his hardscrabble thing, and he taught me a whole lot through example. And so I'll always look back at him as someone that inspires me.
I love this Carlton Fisk quote. It's on your website. It's not what you achieve, it's what you overcome. Oh, yeah. And when you think about that, what you've achieved is monumental. Like you've done a lot of incredible branch transferring successfully, deploying. I mean, that is a lot of achievement. You've done a lot of things. You've been to a lot of countries. You don't think that at some point that as you mature, that list of accomplishments, you don't think that overcomes what you've overcome?
I think it's probably going to grow if I keep doing what I'm doing now. I think that accomplishments will just continue to grow. I mean, like we talked about getting out of the military, and it's like you just can't stop. A lot of times you got to keep moving. Even if you're in your 70s and all you do is go to doctor's appointments, you're still moving and you're still you're still doing things. But I'm not there yet. But no, I think that the list of accomplishments will continue to grow. I mean, just doing this book was really icing.
That's what I'm saying, right? Yeah.
Yeah, this book. I'm going to tell you, this book nearly killed me just because of looking at this thing. But really, and then I said, well, I've done this one book. I can do other books. So I'm thinking we've already got the meat. We've already got the story there, and then we can just go and do a series of books. And so I'm thinking that might be for now. That's kind of what I'm looking at, and then getting into speaking and more, and getting the word out on inspiration, hope, survival. I mean, this book's about love, joy, hate, fighting. It's about girlfriend problems. It's all of life. It's all really the ups and downs of a life. And and I probably had my share of downs a little bit more, and unfortunately, but that's made a great story. Yeah.
My buddy Dan, my heart goes out to him, lost someone who's immediate in his family, very close to him this week. And, it's danger close, right? Like it's dangerous to him. This person is so close. And I know you and I can talk about this because we've all lost people around us way too many times. What is your advice? Like when you're dealing with grief that's so close, it's even hard to even know if you felt it or not yet. But it's
Mm.
just, you know,
Yeah, it's bad. You've
yeah.
got to somehow get it out of you. It is a wicked process, put it that way. You may not ever totally get over it, but you have to somehow break into yourself and allow it to come out. It may take a loved one's help. It may take a professional's help. Once you do that, you're starting the process of doing a little bit of healing. And what I did with that, and I did this by accident, I jumped on an elliptical machine. Well, I've always done elliptical machines, working out at the gym, left, right, left. And then I started thinking of my father, and then I started crying on the machine. It just came out. And then I started laughing on the machine. I started getting mad on the machine. I thought I was going to break the machine. And it was an accidental process of using my emotions and physical to get it out. It felt like I was using the bathroom, and I would jump on there every day. I said, I want to use some more bathroom. I need to go to the bathroom again. And I would do it constantly over and over. Matter of fact, I was grieving my father when I was in Afghanistan. He had died, and I was shipping off to Afghanistan. I did go to the funeral, but I told my soldiers, I ain't right. Y'all got to take care of me because I ain't right. My dad died. And so they did. They took care of me. And, sir, you remember to do this, sir? And they were really, really good to me, and they helped me out a lot. And but yeah, I was in Afghanistan under a weakened mental condition, and it was not just that, but there's some other things going on. So yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think about grief like it's like a dice game where you have one die and it's got these values on it. It's that anger, it's that giggling, happy goofiness, and it's just you don't know what you're going to get. It's random. And then the other one is a person or an object. So it's like, oh, anger, Jason Pike, and I'm just like outrageously mad at you, right? And it's like there's no direction. And so I definitely agree that if you're wired that way, you can get on the elliptical and you can just do a bunch of dice rolls, right? And you can just kind of work through that system and recognize that that's just a borrowed reality for a while. We are like, it's just my body trying to respond chemically to all of this overload of emotions, and you have to go through it. And you
can get your photographs, get your old photographs. If you don't have any photographs, think of the days that you were with that loved one or whoever, and then think of the good and the bad and the ugly as photographs, and allow that to just allow you scream, yell, fight, punch a bag, or cry, whatever, and then and it's hard. It's really hard, and it's hard. It looks wicked too. I mean, you've got to be comfortable with whoever you're around or what have you. Might want to do it alone. I don't know how you're going to do it.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing I always say is that people are bad at people dying, and so the folks around you are going to be just as shitty at it. And especially this person's very young who passed, way, way, way too young and way too purposeful. So you have to deal with the fact that there's not going to be all you can extend is grace to everybody else, and know that everybody's going to be shitty at it at different times. And it's just horrible, death. And unfortunately, folks like us in our line of work, we don't get numb to it. You just get used to the fact that this happens. And luckily, a lot of folks don't get as much access to it as we do. But you do develop a mechanism, I guess, of just saying, this is how this feels, and it's horrible. But, tomorrow I'll do it again, and tomorrow we'll do it again. And, you just continue to go through it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no doubt. And this book, really, I look back at my life and my father, who really did a wonderful job developing the entire family. And I just look at him as a model, and I got a photograph in him of there. And so this is like my, I'm okay with death. Now that I got my book published, I'm like, I've done really, really well. And very, very, I can't say the amount of pride I am. I know he'd be very proud of me. No doubt.
Yeah. What else is there, right? Like, if you could look at your dad and say, hey, I got this book done, and he was proud of you, that's it. You won. Who cares what rank you made? Who cares what else, right? It's just like that's it. Like that's the standard. The person who made you, the person who raised you, the person who raised you the way that you're so proud of him that you're fucked up when you go to Afghanistan because he's gone. If you think you would have made that person proud, that's the gold standard. There's nothing better.
Yep, that's right. I mean, I didn't think I was going to be able to mentally go to I could have gotten out of Afghanistan by claiming mental health because I was at that point of mental health breakdown. And they said, yeah, we'll waive you. We'll get you out of there. I talked to my uncle and he says, what's your dad think if you got out of, you got out of Afghanistan because you declared mental health? And I said, okay, I'll go. And so I went ahead and I just muscled it on through. And that was really difficult for me.
Yeah. And just knowing you just for a few minutes, it doesn't surprise me that you did. I appreciate you talked to your uncle. I appreciate your uncle saying, yeah, that's not you, because it's not you. And that's not most of us. Most of us are going to be like, I think I can take it. And you reached out to your people and they took care of you. I legitimately, I gave my gun and rounds to my buddy when I was in Afghanistan. I'm like, I'm in a tough spot. I'm not going to do anything, but you're going to have this and I'm not going to be able, I don't even want to think about thinking about it. And so he held on to my pistol for the rest of my deployment. I mean, I was fine, right? But I wasn't fine. And so we removed that temptation and that thought, that demon that sits in that pistol, And so, yeah.
What location were you at over there?
I was South Central. So I was in Zabul province.
Oh.
And, and we were working hard, and it was the end of a lot of many years of being deployed back to back to back to back. And I've done a lot of patrolling, and a lot of my work is outside the wire. And so, I had worked myself, and I had some, personal situations back at home that were needed dealing with, and I couldn't deal with them. So I was sort of trapped. Anyhow, it's not about me; it's about you. Everybody should read Jason's fantastic book. There's the link right down below. And you know what I always recommend? Yes, I'm going to say. I'm going to say, buddy, read. Buy two, give one to a friend, and see if you don't agree that this is a fantastic book. One of the things that's fun about Jason's book is guess who reads it on the audiobook? The man himself. Because not only is he this guy who's like, I can't write a book, but wrote a book, he also decided to go ahead and read his own audiobook. Tell me about that decision, because that's business-wise, coming out with your own book for the first time, you're like, and I'm going to take the shot at audio reading my own. Yeah. You're not supposed to do that.
Someone said, if you write a book, do the audio. The main thing with my book is I wanted to give it credibility. So if I read it, I'm the author and I'm the narrator, that's more credible. Because this stuff, some of this shit you can't make up. I look at some of these stories thinking, how in the world did I even survive all this stuff? And so, but let me tell you a process about this audiobook. This audiobook, we said, okay, it's over. I think we've got the manuscript done. He says, okay, now we just got to read it into an audiobook. And I could not do so. I was not right now, about a year and a half ago, I was not speaking like I am now. I learned to start speaking from my heart even more. That was a skill I had to develop. And then at the same time, while I was reading this manuscript, my brain started thinking of all these other stories I forgot. And he says, don't worry about it. Just go ahead. If you think of those stories while you're reading this book, just blurt it out there and we'll adjust the manuscript. So doing the audiobook added to more wild stories that just popped out of nowhere. Yeah. And we adjusted the manuscript, and it even made the book better by reading the audiobook. That's how that happened. It was a hell of a process. I'll put it that way, because it was like take 10, take 20, take 30. I read the damn book about 1,000 times just to try to get it into the proper, I had help. I had somebody, my ghostwriter was also helping me with the audiobook. So, that was it. It made it better, I felt, overall. Yeah. And it's like some people ask me, how do you remember this stuff? I said, well, I didn't have a journal or anything. It was a squeezing lemon out of it was just a slow process. Your 5 push-ups, 10 push-ups. Now 2 weeks later I could do. So I just kept going at it. And then all the stories and the details came out. And it was thousands of Zoom calls. He would ask me the question in different ways over and over to try to get it and I was like, it was just a working out process. Yeah.
And it's funny, once you access the memory, there are things before, after, left, right, emotions, smells, senses. And so, like, if you ask me something and you say, "What'd you eat that day?" There's a decent chance I'll be able to tell you what I ate, because a lot of days I ate the same thing. Because when you go out on a patrol, you don't want your stomach in any way upset. And so it's like I put the same things in every day. Like, one of the things I would do was I put 1 liter in before I ate, and then I'd eat, and then I put another liter in. So I had 2 liters in my stomach, which seems like a lot, but you get used to it. And so then you're not worried about water for a long time, and you don't have to carry as much, because then your water's hot. And it's like, all these things go into your calculation on what you're doing on your foot patrol in Afghanistan. And so, like, oh, I probably had a blueberry pancake wrapped around a sausage, because that's what we had in this one camp. Oh, was I on the other camp? Oh, then I for sure had, this and this, because you just get into a pattern of what you have to do, because the food is secondary. It's just fuel to make your machine go. Oh, and that means I sat over in this, and it's like all these things start to come together, because you're just really an algorithm for a lot of the day, because you're just trying to get to the patrol. And so you don't want anything to mess with that, right? Oh, I for sure went and talked to this colonel and all of those things come out of that lemon, because once you get that first drop, there's a lot more juice in there, right?
Yeah, we found a whole lot more juice just by working with that audiobook that came out with more stories.
Love
so I thought, you think it's over, and then it's not over. And I'm sort of the military guy. Let's do time hack. See, a book is creativity. I don't know. I've never done a book. I'm not an artist, but I'm thinking, well, we have to have this done by then and this done by then. But a true artist you don't really want to really do that. You want to allow things to flow. It becomes a process of its own, and you can't direct it, because it's a living, breathing thing that I had a hard time wrapping my head around that thought.
Right.
Yeah. So I would say be patient. You're gonna have to have a lot of patience, put it that way.
Yeah. No, you do. Hey, I don't want to take all your day. I've had you for almost an hour. So let me just, do you want to ask me any questions? Otherwise, let's wrap this thing up and get you on the road to the next thing, because you got to go walk them dogs and get in that ice bath.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm good. I appreciate it. I'm very honored to be on your show, Peter. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me roll these credits and I'll come right back to you and say goodbye proper. Hang on one second.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly.